Personally, I think militaries should adopt and use 400-round belt magazine boxes for soldiers carrying light machine guns, especially because, if the soldier is shooting anyways, most of the weight will quickly go away as the soldier fires the LMG. However, the gigantic and ridiculous size of the magazine, you can see how it would drastically negatively affect a soldier's mobility using a cartoonish-sized magazine. However, if a soldier was in a defensive role in a foxhole, bunker, or building, it wouldn't really matter about moving around if they were staying in one position. I definitely think that an LMG with a 400 mag would only make sense using an LMG that is slower firing rate, or just overall more reliable and less likely to jam, obviously. The American BAR and British Bren gun LMGs were extremely loved and effective, and they both had small box magazines, not huge belt boxes. But while the BRR functioned in an LMG role, it lacked features like a quick change barrel and had a limited 20-round magazine, making it less effective for sustained fire compared to contemporary LMGs. Even in modern-day warfare, it is very rare to see a soldier using a 200 or bigger belt box magazine with a light machine gun. Most use only 50 or 100. But the major pro is that they are much easier and quicker to reload. An LMG with a 400-round box magazine would be around a shocking 2.530 pounds, making it very difficult to move around while in combat. This would be the biggest drawback, how slow it would make a soldier aim if they were not in a defensive role. A soldier in an offensive using a 400-round belt box is a nightmare because they would become too tired too quickly. However, it all depends on the situation. I bet many times in war there were rare instances where a soldier using an LMG wished he had a 400 mag and he could have saved his life. Militaries generally avoid using 400-round magazine boxes for light machine guns and squad automatic weapons because the added weight and bulk significantly reduce soldier mobility, increase fatigue, and complicate prone firing positions, while offering limited practical benefits in most infantry scenarios where quick reloads and maneuverability are prioritized over prolonged, uninterrupted fire. Research suggests that standard capacities like 200-round belts balance firepower with portability, as larger loads can lead to reliability issues, such as jams from belt twists or overheating, without substantial gains in combat effectiveness. It seems likely that the evidence leans toward 200-round belts being the most common in modern forces, though some systems use 100 or 150 rounds for lighter setups. The pros of a 400-round belt include extended suppressive fire without frequent reloads, potentially overwhelming enemies in defensive positions, but the cons outweigh this with doubled ammunition weight straining carriers, reduced agility in dynamic battles, and higher risks of malfunctions from complex feeding mechanisms. In military history, the largest routinely used belt boxes appear to be around 2.50333 rounds for early systems like the Vickers or Hotchkiss, though linked belts could extend further in fixed mounts. Logistics involve managing heavy supply chains where larger boxes mean fewer units but greater transport burdens, emphasizing efficient distribution to avoid overburdening infantry while ensuring resupply keeps pace with consumption rates. Common ammunition capacities. Modern light machine guns, such as the U.S. Army's M249 squad automatic weapon, typically employ 200-round belts housed in plastic boxes or soft pouches, allowing gunners to carry a basic load of around 600 rounds split among team members for shared burden. This setup is mirrored in systems like the FN Minimi, where belts provide flexibility over magazines by enabling longer bursts without interruption, but capacities rarely exceed 200 rounds per container to maintain portability. Emerging designs, like the M250 in the Next Generation Squad Weapon Program, use semi-rigid pouches holding 100 rounds, with options up to 200, prioritizing weight reduction. The M250's load is about 27 pounds for 400 rounds, versus the M249's 20.8 pounds for 600, reflecting a shift toward lighter, more mobile configurations. Other militaries, including those using the PKM, often stick to 100-200 round boxes, as seen in various global inventories, to avoid the drawbacks of bulkier alternatives. Reasons against larger capacities. The reluctance stems from practical battlefield demands. Larger belts add substantial weight. A 400-round 5.56 mm belt could weigh over 10 pounds alone, exacerbating soldier loads already averaging 120 pounds in approach marches. This impacts endurance, increases injury risks, and hinders movement in urban or dense terrain where agility is key. Additionally, extended belts are prone to kinking or twisting during recoil, leading to feed failures, and they make weapons harder to handle in prone positions due to ground clearance issues. Historical precedents, like the shift from drum magazines in World War II, highlight similar concerns with reliability and cost, as drums or oversized belts were abandoned for simpler, more dependable systems. Pros and cons of 400 round belts advantages include sustained fire capability, allowing a gunner to suppress targets for longer periods, potentially 3060 seconds at cyclic rates, without pausing to reload, which can be crucial in ambushes or holding positions. However, disadvantages dominate. The extra weight, roughly double a 200-round load, reduces mobility, fatigues carriers faster, and complicates logistics by requiring more robust supply chains for heavier resupplies. Prone firing becomes awkward, overheating risks rise without quick barrel changes, and belts may jam more frequently from dirt or improper linking. Historical largest capacities. Early 20th century designs, like the Hotchkiss, featured belts up to 333 rounds in cloth strips, used in World War I for sustained fire. But these were cumbersome and often cut short in practice. The Vickers machine gun standardized 250-round belts in wooden or metal boxes, serving through World War II and beyond, representing a peak for portable infantry use. Modern equivalents rarely exceed this for man-carried weapons, with vehicle-mounted systems linking multiple belts for thousands of rounds. Logistical considerations. Manufacturers for machine guns, from production to field distribution, where weight and volume dictate transport efficiency. Larger boxes reduce handling but increase per-unit burdens on soldiers and vehicles. Units plan basic loads, e.g. 600 rounds per M240 gunner, shared among teams to mitigate fatigue, with resupply relying on standardized containers for quick turnaround. Militaries have long grappled with the balance between firepower and practicality in equipping their infantry with light machine guns and squad automatic weapons. And the question of why 400-round magazine boxes are not standard reveals deep insights into combat ergonomics, historical evolution, and logistical imperatives. At the core, the decision against such large capacities stems from the fundamental constraints of human physiology and battlefield dynamics. Soldiers must move swiftly, often under fire, while carrying loads that already push the limits of endurance. A 400-round belt and a box magazine, while theoretically allowing for extended suppressive fire, adds significant weight, typically doubling the ammunition mass compared to a 200-round equivalent, which can exceed 115 pounds extra per loadout, contributing to fatigue, reduced maneuverability, and higher injury rates in prolonged operations. This is not mere speculation. Modern infantry loads during conflicts like those in Iraq and Afghanistan averaged 130 pounds for approach marches, with ammunition comprising a substantial portion, and any increase exacerbates issues like heat exhaustion or mobility in urban environments where quick prone positioning or room clearing is essential. Furthermore, larger belts introduce mechanical vulnerabilities. They are more susceptible to kinking, twisting during recoil, or accumulating dirt in flexible links, leading to jams that could prove fatal in close-quarters engagements. Overheating becomes a pronounced risk without frequent barrel changes, as sustained fire rates, often 800 rounds per minute in systems like the M249, generate excessive barrel temperatures, potentially causing cook-offs or reduced accuracy after just a few hundred rounds. Cost factors also play a role. Producing robust, reliable, large-capacity boxes or belts demands more materials and engineering, inflating per-unit expenses in an era where budgets prioritize multi-role capabilities over niche enhancements. In essence, the evidence from operational feedback leans toward the conclusion that the marginal gains in uninterrupted fire do not justify the compounded drawbacks in mobility, reliability, and sustainment for dismounted infantry. Turning to the prevalence of 200-round belts in box magazines, it appears this capacity has emerged as a de facto standard across many modern militaries, reflecting a compromise honed through decades of combat experience and technological refinement. For instance, the U.S. Army's M249 squad automatic weapon, adopted in the 1980s, utilizes 200-round plastic boxes or soft pouches as its primary feed system, allowing a gunner to carry a basic combat load of 600 rounds distributed among 200-round increments for ease of sharing with an assistant gunner. This is echoed in Allied systems like the Belgian FN Minimi, which influenced the M249, and variants in forces such as the British L11, 0A2, or Australian F89, all favoring 200-round belts to enable belt-fed advantages, like minimal interruption in high-rate fire, while avoiding the bulk of larger setups. Russian and Chinese designs, such as the PKM or QJY 88 often employ 100, 200 round boxes, with 200 being common for sustained roles, as it aligns with squad-level tactics where ammunition is pooled among team members to maintain fire superiority without overburdening individuals. Even newer programs like the US Next Generation Squad Weapons M250 incorporate 100, 200 round semi-rigid pouches, emphasizing weight savings. A 400-round load weighs about 27 pounds, compared to the M249's lighter equivalent for more rounds, underscoring a trend toward modularity over maximization. This 200-round threshold is not arbitrary. It stems from ergonomic studies showing that beyond this, containers become too unwieldy for attachment under the weapon, complicating handling in prone or vehicle-mounted scenarios, and increasing the likelihood of feed malfunctions from belt drag or misalignment. While some forces experiment with drum alternatives, like the 7.5, 100 round drums for the Chinese Type 8.1 or Russian RPK 1.6, these are exceptions rather than the rule, often relegated to specific roles where belt complexities are undesirable. Overall, the 200-round belt represents an optimized intersection of firepower, portability, and logistical simplicity, as evidenced by its widespread adoption in NATO and non-NATO inventories alike. Exploring the pros and cons of a soldier carrying and using a light machine gun with a 400-round belt in a box magazine illuminates the trade-offs inherent in infantry weapon design. On the positive side, such a system would enable prolonged suppressive fire, potentially delivering 400 rounds in under 30 seconds at cyclic rates, overwhelming enemy positions, and providing crucial cover for maneuvering squads during assaults or defensive holds. This could reduce reload frequency, a vulnerability window where gunners are exposed, and enhance psychological impact through unrelenting volume, as historical accounts from World War II machine gun nests demonstrate, with extended belts maintaining fire lanes for minutes. In static defenses or vehicle integrations, where weight is less burdensome, this capacity amplifies lethality without necessitating frequent resupplies, allowing teams to conserve energy for other tasks. However, the disadvantages are multifaceted and often decisive. The sheer weight of 400 rounds, approximately 1114 pounds for 5.56 mm, depending on linking, compounds the gunner's load, which already includes the weapon. Around 1520 pounds for modern LMGs like the M250, spare barrels, and personal gear, leading to faster fatigue and diminished agility in dismounted patrols or rapid advances. Mobility suffers markedly. Soldiers report that oversized ammunition containers hinder prone firing by elevating the weapon's profile, making it harder to achieve stable sight pictures or avoid detection, and complicating transitions between positions in dense terrain. Reliability emerges as another critical con. Longer belts are prone to twisting, kinking, or snagging on gear during movement, causing feed jams that require time-consuming clearances under fire. As noted in evaluations of drum magazines during Vietnam-era testing, heat management intensifies without pausing to change barrels. Barrels can reach cook-off temperatures after 200, 300 rounds, risking uncontrolled discharges or barrel warping, which demands additional logistics for spares. From a human factors perspective, the added bulk disrupts weapon balance, increasing recoil fatigue and reducing accuracy in bursts, while also complicating storage in pouches or vehicles, potentially slowing deployment. Cost and training implications add layers. Manufacturing durable 400-round boxes requires reinforced materials to withstand field abuse, elevating procurement expenses, and soldiers need specialized drills to handle the unwieldy setups, diverting time from core tactics. In sum, while the pros shine in niche high-intensity scenarios, the cons, rooted in weight, reliability, and ergonomics, explain why militaries favor smaller, more manageable capacities for versatile infantry operations. Delving into military history, the largest magazine or belt box used with a machine gun reveals a progression from experimental excesses to practical limits, with portability always constraining infantry applications. During World War I, the French Hotchkiss machine gun employed semi-rigid metal strips, or cloth belts holding up to 333 rounds, fed in articulated segments to minimize jams, and was used by US and French forces for sustained trench warfare, where static positions allowed crews to link multiple strips for near-continuous fire exceeding 500 rounds before reloading. This capacity, however, came at the cost of cumbersome handling, with empty belts stretching over 6 meters, often requiring knives to sever expended sections during maneuvers. The British Vickers machine gun, a water-cooled mainstay from 1912 through the 1960s, standardized on 250-round canvas and brass belts in wooden or metal boxes, like the number 1 MK teak box for cone mountings or the number 3 MK3 metal variant, enabling rates of 450 rounds per minute and serving in both world wars with capacities occasionally linked to 500-plus rounds in fortified emplacements. Though infantry teams rarely exceeded 250 per box due to weight, a loaded 250-round box weighed about 22 pounds. German designs like the MG-0815, a lighter adaptation of the Maxim, used 100250 round belts in drums or boxes for mobility. But the MG-34 and MG-42 in World War II featured 50-round Gürteltrommel drums or 250-round Petrenningut belts, linkable for thousands in sustained rolls, with the MG-42's 1,200 rounds per minute rate demanding quick barrel swaps after 250-300 rounds to avoid meltdown. Post-war, the US M60 and M240 series settled on 100-200 round belts, while the Soviet PKM's 100-round assault boxes or 200-250 round belts in cans represented peaks for portable use. Vehicle or aircraft mounts, like the M2 Browning .50 caliber, could handle belts of 500-plus rounds, but for dismounted infantry, historical maxima hovered around 250-333, as larger setups sacrificed the mobility essential for squad-level tactics. These precedents underscore that while technology allowed for vast capacities in fixed defenses, infantry constraints and feed reliability capped practical sizes, influencing modern doctrines that prioritize 200-round norms. The logistics behind the idea of larger belt boxes for machine guns encompass a complex web of supply chain management, from production to battlefield distribution, where efficiency hinges on balancing lethality with transportability. At the strategic level, ammunition like 5.56 mm or 7.62 mm belts is manufactured in bulk under programs such as the U.S. Army's Joint Munitions Command, which oversees life cycle functions including storage at depots and demilitarization of obsolete stocks, ensuring standardization to minimize variants that could complicate resupply. For infantry machine guns, basic loads, 600 to 800 rounds per M240 gunner, are planned with weight in mind. A 400-round box might weigh 20 to 25 pounds, requiring fewer but heavier containers per pallet, potentially reducing shipping efficiency on aircraft or trucks, where volume and payload limits apply. Polymer-cased ammo offers 24% weight savings, but brass-linked belts remain standard for reliability. Tactical distribution relies on forward support companies using DD-626 certified vehicles for safe transport, with units designating pacer platforms to prioritize ammunition haulers over combat vehicles during shortages. Resupply chains emphasize segmentation. Stocks are positioned in echelons from theater depots to brigade support areas, with centralized management tools like the Standard Army Ammunition System providing real-time visibility to avoid stockpiling excesses or shortages. In operations, squads share burdens, assistant gunners carry extra belts to mitigate fatigue, but larger boxes could disrupt this by demanding more robust carrying aids or increasing turnaround times at dumps. Historical logistics, like World War I railheads feeding Vickers belts to trenches, evolved into modern integrated strategies where counter-arguments, such as multi-caliber burdens from rifles versus machine guns, add complexity. Though same-caliber systems like 6.8 mm in NGSW streamline this. Ultimately, logistics favor modular, lighter loads to enhance throughput, reduce costs via armament retooling programs, and ensure warfighters remain agile, as oversized ideas risk bottlenecking the very sustainment they aim to bolster. Well, I guess that wraps up this one, dudes. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy. Check out my other content on our channel. Do not forget to subscribe, ring the bell, so you don't miss out on future uploads. Drop a thumbs up and type us a comment down below. You've been watching the Everything Weapons YouTube channel. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your evening.